Occurred, the 21st of November 1953, 22 hours 30 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Pendleton, 2 to 2.5 miles. SE of in USA. Shape, disk duration 2.5–3 minutes. No of observers. 2 characteristics: aircraft nearby on a moonless, starlit night. Greenish-orange light moves rapidly and silently about the dark sky while being pursued by a jet. The night is absolutely clear, very dark, and moonless. Out in the rural country, no town lights, farm lights, vehicles, nothing but black sky populated with thousands of stars all a twinkle. Hearing a piston-engined airliner flying towards the south, I looked up, almost immediately noticing a greenish-orange or yellowish light meandering along soundlessly, first heading in one direction then another. Quite unlike any conventional aircraft of the time, I know what it is: UFO. Calling my friend, we watch for perhaps half a minute what appears to be a seemingly aimless flight pattern. Suddenly, another night traveler arrives on the scene. I hear it, then see its navigation lights. A jet. A military plane. It has to be, for, at this time -1953, there are no civilian jet-powered aircraft of any kind. At almost the same moment that I see the newcomer, its pilot spots the UFO light, immediately changes course, and makes a beeline for the thing. Thereafter, what follows is a cat-and-mouse game of catch me if you can between the light and the plane. The UFO zips ahead, the jet falling behind, then slowing nearly to a stop. The chase allows its pursuer to close. Once the separation is minimal, away it goes at an unbelievably high speed, sometimes executing angle maneuvers of less than 90 deg, with little or no slowing, until ready to once again tease the adversary. For its part, the jet is able to make only gentle, sweeping turns, as its prey, in ghostly silence, traces various geometric figures in the night sky. Only the roaring and panting of the military aircraft is heard in its utterly futile attempt to catch the soundless speck as it continues its will-o'-the-wisp dance. It is quite a show. And, after some 2.5 minutes or so, the participants disappear in a southwesterly direction, still engaged in a one-sided midnight game of tag. It is my opinion that the military plane was a Northrop F-89 Scorpion, because few, if any, single-seat jet fighters were flown at night on missions such as this. The Scorpion, a 2-seat, radar and rocket-equipped aircraft, was used in the interceptor role. And, on this night, it definitely appears that one was trying to catch a bogey. There is a possibility that the chase plane may have been a Lockheed F-94 Starfire. NUFORC note: date is approximate. The witness in this case is well known to us, and we consider him to be highly credible. Please note the proximity of the date above to the dramatic case of Lieutenants Moncla and Brown over Lake Superior on November 24, 1953, described elsewhere on the NUFORC website. PD.
Occurred, the 15th of July 1954, 14 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Greenfield, rural area, 6 miles so. IN, USA. Shape, cigar duration, 5 minutes. No of observers. 3 characteristics: emitted other objects, changed color. This all occurred when I was still a child and living on a farm. My mother, our next-door neighbor's wife, and myself were standing outside in our barnyard driveway. I was working on an old bicycle near my mother while she was having a conversation with our neighbor. I noticed an object in the sky, estimate to be at 1,500 feet altitude and quarter-mile away. I pointed it out to my mother and neighbor, and for at least 3 or 4 minutes we discussed it while watching what it was doing. We actually stopped looking at it for a few seconds, continued talking, looked back up to watch it some more, but it was gone. The object's relevant appearance to us was that of a cigar shape. Brown in color but with a light orange glow about it. After a minute or so, The glow changed to an obvious large fireball around it horizontally only, not over the top or bottom, swirling fire with lots of black smoke swirling around it as well. The object stood perfectly still in the air and made no sound that we could hear. We commented to each other that it must be some new military test device because we had never seen nor heard of any aircraft like that. We never could come to any uneducated idea as to how it could burn so profusely, black smoke and fire, and not be damaged nor fall from the sky.
Occurred the 17th of August 1957, 23 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds local location. Huntington, in USA. Shape. Triangle duration. 1 hour no of observers. 20 directly overhead at tree level, a massive, silent, hovering object blocking the night sky. An August late night. On my way home from work, I came upon a group of cars and people off the side of the road. I pulled over, shut off my car and approached the group. Where I was directed to look over to the northeast at tree level, I saw a huge dark form, no lights, hovering, no noise. I realized around me were people I did not know other than one, the father, barber, of a high school classmate who I had just graduated with who lived within a mile of this site. People were saying it is just stationary and not moving. Suddenly, it began to move very slowly across the ground at tree level toward us and stopped directly over where we were standing. I was captivated and not afraid. Others were saying, "It's the Russians." I did not speak, I just focused on the huge object that appeared to be about the size of a football field, blocking out the entire night sky, its bright blue-white light coming from windows in a horseshoe format surrounding a gear of some kind underneath the object was of interest to me. I was waiting for something to happen, but as far as I know at that time nothing did. After about 20 minutes or so it seemed, it just began to move slowly at treetop level southwest over the countryside with no noise and no fanfare, as far as I could see, until it slowly went out of sight. I was told by one of the bystanders it was headed to an airbase about 50 miles away. I drove home and ran into my house where my father was sitting reading. I told him about what I had experienced, and he just got up and went to his bookshelf and handed me a paperback book about an accounting of a commercial pilot's story of spotting more than one unidentified object in his flying career. Of course, to this day I read and stay up on serious accounts of this interesting aspect to our universe. I was 17 when I had the experience and it shaped my life and has been forever a reference point that nothing can surprise me and has formed an open mind and unlimited potential attitude. The object was a soft delta shape and was a matte deep green, blue or black, no distinguishing features or symbols on the object. It was a massive object, overwhelming, indeed.
Occurred the 1st of June 1959, 8 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds local location, Wabash River, on, IN, USA. Shape, circle duration, 15 minutes no of observers, 3 characteristics. Lights on object, metallic object up close. As a child of 9 or 10, my father, myself, and a friend experienced a UFO that still puzzles me today. I'm 57 years old now and still this is vivid in my mind. We were running trot lines on the Wabash River and noticed an object in the sky. This object came right over the top of us at treetop high, maybe 30 feet, in the air with no sound, was round in shape but had flats all over it approximately 20 feet. In gear, with 4 cylinder-shaped bars coming out at the top and bottom, 8 in all. The craft was metallic looking as the color was the same as oxidized aluminium. It had what appeared to me to be an antenna on top and bottom with a light on top and bottom. It followed the center of the river like a floating balloon, staying the same height as the river changed course. This object also changed course following the river until we lost sight of it. I have told very few people of this sighting because in 1959 or 1960 people would not have believed me, and possible thought me to be unstable. I do not know what this craft was. I do not know if it was something from Earth or from some other planet, but I do know we seen it. It was real, and to this day have never seen anything like it since. I am a successful businessman that has been wondering what the heck it was for almost 50 years. I will most likely never know, other than it was a UFO.
Occurred the 30th of April 1960, 12 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds local location, South Whitley, IN, USA. Shape, disk duration, 5 minutes no of observers, 7 characteristics, electrical or magnetic effects. 3 craft spotted in South Whitley, IND in 1960. You said last week that you wanted to hear about old sightings, so this is why I'm writing. This event happened in spring of 1960. I was 6 years old. I lived in South Whitley, IND. We were going to Featuring Wayne on a Saturday afternoon. Featuring Wayne is 28 miles from South Whitley on High 14. We left after lunch and there was one car in front of us and one following. Approximately 4 miles from South Whitley, all 3 cars died and everyone pulled off the road. As we got out of the car, we saw 3 discs hovering over this cornfield. Everyone was amazed as we all watched them just hover. My guess was that they were 20 feet above ground and they stayed there for about 5 minutes. Then they just veered off to the south and rapidly climbed out of sight in seconds. Everyone was in shock and the first car owner looked under his hood and found that his battery was completely dry, as was the other 2 cars. We had to walk almost a mile to a house and call Arnold's gas station to come and put new batteries in the cars. This incident has been talked about all through my life and is well known in South Whitley.
Occurred the 20th of October 1963, 19 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Danville, in USA. Shape, disk duration: don't know of observers. 2 characteristics: lights on object, emitted beams. UFO over cornfield, Indiana, 1963. In Danville, Indiana. This happened Indiana 1963, and I was in the 4th grade. We knew nothing of what a UFO was, so this is my story. My cousin and I were down at the creek at my cousin's grandmother's house, and we went back to sit on the stoop on the front porch, and remembered that we forgot our watches at the creek, so we went back and got them, and we saw like a jet in the sky with the sun on it, and didn't think too much of it. It was getting dark and right across the road was a cornfield. All of a sudden this thing was over the cornfield. It made no sound and it was huge and round with a row of windows on the top around it. It had one big light that shone down on the field. The next thing I know is I am in bed and they called my mother to come and at me, because they said I was in shock and to hurry. That night I kept on making pictures what it looked like to show my family what I saw, but I never did believe that they really believed what I saw, but you have to remember that was when no one talked about seeing things like that. The next day I was still not feeling well, so my mother came and got me out of school. The thing that really bothers me is that my cousin didn't seem to get upset about what we saw, but it sure affected me. All I know is that I saw something I didn't know what it was, and I was just a little girl, so when people ask me do I believe, I can swear to you that I do believe. People have asked me did I lose any time, and I just don't know. As I got older, I am now 53 years old, I am still affected by this. Thanks for listening to me. Everyone laughs when I tell them, but when they see my face they know I am not joking.
Occurred the 1st of July 1971, 20 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Morgantown, Martinsville area, in USA. Shape, other duration: 1 minute. Know of observers. 7 characteristics: lights on object. Summer 71. Southern Indy spacecraft sighting by 7 people. Summer of 1971. I was a teenage camp counselor at Waycross Episcopal Church Camp near Morgantown, Indiana. It was a camp in the hilly, wooded area of southern Indiana. We had just put the campers to bed in the 6 cabins, and 7 of us counselors, ages 17 to 23, were sitting on the bathhouse steps talking quietly, as we did every night for an hour or so after the kids went to bed. We could see all 6 cabin doors from the bathhouse steps, and a wooded hill rose behind the cabins. Off to our left and on a small hill, in the mowed area of the camp, was the camp owner's ranch house. Suddenly a hand-can-shaped flying object came over the hill behind the cabins and flew past us to stop and hover over the owner's house. It was about the size of the house and it had white-yellow lights running around the side of the ham can. We were all shocked and we stood up and grabbed each other, asking what we should do. 2 of the female counselors and 1 of the male counselors started crying, and we were all talking at once. The craft hovered silently over the house for maybe 30 seconds. Then it rose up in the air and then zipped at an amazing speed back where it came from, over the hill behind the cabins.
Occurred the 17th of October 1972, 21 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: New Albany, Floyd or Harrison County. IN, USA. Shape, disk duration: unknown. Know of observers. 12 characteristics: lights on object. Looking for someone who recognizes this sighting. hayride on farm in Indiana. My first UFO experience happened back in the early 70s. I had recently joined our local 4-H group in my hometown of Jeffersonville, Indiana. I was 12 years old. Our group had planned a hayride. The hayride would be on a big farm in Indiana. I remember the name of the farm to this day. What we all saw that evening will always and forever be embedded in my mind. It will hold out as top of the list on the most fascinating experiences of my life. We arrived at the farm, gathered onto the bed of the tractor, and situated ourselves on the hay. And embarked onto the venture of a lifetime. It all started out relatively calm, as I remember. There were 12 plus people, including myself. We were pretty deep into the woods of the farm. We were singing and playing the guitar, having a really good time. When a friend of mine and I noticed some strange lights behind the tree lines, on the right side of our path. We observed them for a while, and then in an instant this huge craft was right on top of us. I remember being so frightened by this sight. One moment we all are laughing and singing, the next moment everyone was totally terrified. And there was not a thing we could do. This craft was huge and so close I could have literally thrown a rock at it. That is how close it was to us. And in that split second how it got from behind the tree line to right on top of us, still blows my mind to this day. The speed this craft had is unimaginable. Believe me, nothing back then or now could ever make those kind of maneuvers that it put on that night. Explaining the craft, it was disc-shaped, metallic in color. It had brightly multicolored flashing or rather spinning lights in the center of the craft. That wrapped around the entire craft. And above these lights were windows that also wrapped around the entire object. I remember trying so hard to see inside the windows, as the craft was also lit up on the inside too. It just came out of nowhere, and there it was, right in front of all of our faces. It hovered for a very long time. My friend remembers hearing a swishing sound, and I felt more of a vibration through my body. I just still to this day cannot believe how fast and quiet this huge craft was. After our initial panic, I believe we all became relatively calm with amazement. It was a spectacular sight. Then it zipped over at incredible speeds to the left and just hovered, then to the right and just hovered, then with the blink of an eye, shot off so fast it was truly incredible, the speed so fast till it was out of sight. It was so fast, the way it streaked off, I simply cannot put into words. I do not believe there was ever a report made of this sighting. I don't know how to get in touch with any of the other people who was also involved in this. This is now over 30 years old. I remember no one said anything on the ride home. I thought this to be strange as to what we all just saw. I only wonder if they all still think about that evening, as I still do. There were several people that witnessed this sighting with me. This encounter will always be with me for the rest of my life. I know what I saw, and I am a believer. Oh well, I just wanted to get my story out there. For my own peace of mind, in my own words. And hopefully some of those people out there with me that night might see this and remember also, since no one had home computers then. But one thing I'm sure of, IT has to be embedded in their thoughts, as is mine. Because you just don't forget about something like this, it's just too big. Maybe I am not intended to understand why or how. I do know you cannot erase these kinds of memories from your mind. I only hope one day I might find my answer, as so many others need to know also. As to why these events take place. I have had other strange happenings since, another time. Thanks for reading.
Occurred, the 1st of October 1973, 1 hour 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Montezuma, IN, USA. Shape, sphere. Duration, 15 minutes. No of observers. 4 characteristics. Aura or haze around object. We saw a large glowing sphere that looked like the moon, but was obviously not since it was very close to us and could maneuver. While laying awake one night listening to the police scanner, I heard a report stating that a lady in our town had just spotted a UFO. I got in the car and headed to the south end of town where I saw what at first appeared to be the moon. I realized that what I was seeing was not the moon, but a large glowing off-white sphere that was hovering at treetop level. It was moving east to west until it came to the Wabash River, then it started following the river north towards the bridge. I wanted to see what happened when it reached the bridge, so I sped up. I had been pacing the object at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. When I got to the bridge, the object was no longer over the river. It was moving rapidly to the southwest to the town of Hillsdale. As it approached Hillsdale, which sits low in a little valley, the object made precise turns to maneuver through the valley and was soon out of sight. After trying to chase the object, I returned to town where I spoke with the town marshal and a county deputy sheriff. Both had seen the object. The deputy stated that he had initially seen the object a few miles east of Montezuma and thought the moon looked large and close that night. He paid no more attention until the radio report came in a couple minutes later. At that point he looked out the window and did not see the moon. He realized then that it was not the moon he saw, but something else. We all agreed that what we saw had navigational abilities. The lady who made the initial call had just left the tavern and was somewhat inebriated at the time. Needless to say, she was very hysterical for a while.
Occurred the 1st of October 1973, 20 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds local location. Bloomington, Indiana, USA. Shape. Orb duration. 20 minutes. No of observers. 3 large bright white craft interacting and maneuvering rapidly across a quadrant of night sky. The year is 1973, and the month is October. It is around 8 p.m., clear skies and a full or nearly full moon. The location is southern central Indiana. I was attending graduate courses at Indiana University. I was a passenger in the front right seat and my children ages 4 and 5 years were in the back seat. We were returning from an afternoon in nearby Brown Company State Park, having already stopped for food. I was looking at the sky out the window to see if I could discern any constellations to point out to the children. I was startled to see 3 bright white large objects moving at great speed across approximately a quadrant of the sky. I asked my friend driving to pull over and stop, which he did, and we all got out to observe. The objects appeared to be at a quite high altitude but definitely within the orbit of the moon, as they several times crossed in front of the moon and were quite visible as they were much brighter. They were equal in size and appeared to be 1/6 to 1/8 the size of the moon. Their movements remained within a quadrant of the sky, exhibiting incredible speed even during right-angle turns. My son commented that they were playing tag, which was an accurate description of their movements. Several times 2 of the objects approached very close and began to spin about one another. This maneuver reminded me of videos I've seen of eagles who lock talons in flight and spin about each other. This activity continued for about 20 minutes, then they all departed outward toward space and within seconds were no longer visible. During this event, 2 other cars stopped to observe, so a total number of witnesses was 8. When it was over, everyone looked at each other somewhat wide-eyed, and shrugging shoulders got back in their respective vehicles and departed as well. No one spoke to each other. I didn't know any of the other witnesses and never saw any of them again.
Occurred the 18th of October 1973, 22 hours 30 minutes and 0 seconds local location, Mount Vernon, IN, USA. Shape, cylinder duration, 5 minutes. No of observers. 1 characteristics, lights on object, cigar-shaped body of lights with sound like a river barge. The lady had gone to bed but was disturbed by a noise, described as sounding like a barge on the river. She decided to go outside and check it out. She saw an object over her garage and to the south, merely an outline produced by as many as 50 lights, not exactly evenly spaced. It didn't appear to have any body, and it had a red flashing light on the rear, long and narrow, about 3 times as long as it was wide, moving real slow east to west. She observed the long side view about 3 minutes, and right in front of her house it turned south toward the river and she saw the end view, described as like a squared-off cigar. At this time it was really low and she said she should have seen metal as it went past a tree. 5 minutes. MUFONSSD.
Occurred the 2nd of November 1973, 22 hours 37 minutes and 0 seconds local location, Mount Vernon, IN, USA. Shape, light duration, several minutes. No of observers. 2 police put the squad car spotlight on it again and it immediately moved away and out of sight. Police Chief Wilfred Clark and Officer John Tucker were on a pursuit of a drunken driver in Point Township. The driver had gone off the road and into a ditch. Waiting for a wrecker, the officers observed an object in the southwest that approached them, then stopped. It was a strange-looking object which we now refer to as an OBOL, orange ball of light, and their spotlight placed on it caused the light to get brighter and closer. After about a minute and a half, they put the squad car spotlight on it again and it immediately moved away and out of sight.
Occurred the 15th of January 1974, 5 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds local location, Terre Haute, Indiana, USA. Shape, disk duration, 20 minutes. Characteristics: lights on object UFO tampering with communication towers in Terre Haute, Indiana. I was about 13 and had a morning paper route. It was on a Sunday early morning. I had gotten up to see if the newspapers had arrived, so that I could start on doing the inserts and folding them for delivery. I looked out the front door, which faced west, and could see a number of communications towers, WTHI-TV and radio, what was then WIIL-TV, as well as 3 other radio antennas. There was a craft hovering next to the top of both the TV towers. As I watched them, the one farthest away, at the WIIL tower, moved. Didn't really see it move, but it did, to the next tower in the lineup. I think it was the WPFR tower, where it hovered. A moment later, the one that was closest to me, at the WTHI tower, moved to the tower that the other object had just left. They proceeded in this fashion until they had paused at each tower in my view, and I would guess went to other towers in their path. I reported this to my parents, who said that they had been listening to the local, sheriff, and state police departments talking about them on the scanner, even though Hullman Field did not send any responding aircraft. While this was going on, I was unable to move. I wanted to get the camera but couldn't. The event is still etched in my mind as if it just happened. I know others have seen the same thing, yet have not been able to find any other reports. Hopefully this will bring them out. I have also witnessed another where a small red ball was next to a direct TV antenna that was just installed. There was a friend with me at the time who saw this instance as well.
Occurred the 15th of July 1974, 22 hours 30 minutes and 0 seconds local location, New Albany, in, USA. Shape, triangle duration, 1:30 minutes. No observers. 2 characteristics: lights on object, aircraft nearby at 2230. My father and I saw a black triangular-shaped object in the sky with 3 lights, one being green, the other 2 were red. It was a clear night. This object blocked out the stars where we were in the country around New Albany, Indiana by Highway 111. The lights were not bright and the object moved slowly without sound. The only movement we noted was the sway of the trees 1,000 feet above us on the bluff. This object traveled west across the Ohio River and proceeded towards featuring Knox, Kai. I myself observed the object for 1.5 hours, even using my binoculars. Note, my father was a loadmaster in the Air Force at the local base at that time, and commented to me, "Oh, they've had that thing for years and years." This craft has been seen by many other people as well, but I do not know what happened to them. I have seen many UFOs high in the sky early daylight hours as well as nighttime. I saw the one in 1976 off Highway 95 and Interstate 10 South Quartz Site, AZ. The red glow that ran off left 2F-14 in the dust. For years I have seen many things. I watch Apaches, Cruces, Patoids fly in Yuma, AZ. In my search I went to Roswell, New Mexico, to see for myself, like you wanting to know. As a specialist in transporting electronic, my job took me places far from city lights. I have many other stories to tell. But most of all, some of them are governments. The others, yes, they are. Now I am in Cresnet City, CA. To see wave when it comes.
Occurred the 30th of July 1974, 20 hours 50 minutes and 0 seconds local location, Solitude, in, USA. Shape, disk duration, 7 to 18 minutes. No of observers. 3 characteristics: lights on object saucer viewed from side with lights or portholes, by 3 witnesses. Near Solitude, Indiana, just a little over 3 miles north of Mount Vernon, a couple and their little boy were on their way home from a play in New Harmony, heading S on HWY 69. They observed an object silhouetted against the moonlit haze in the SW. Although a couple of miles away, the object had a clear cigar shape with 3 white lights. They continued driving down the highway and, as they got over the top of some hills, the object started to descend, getting larger and larger all the time. Right at the bottom of the hill they slowed down and the object appeared to be hovering. It was approximately 100 yards from them then, and it was moving, but very slow. The adult male witness reported, "It acted like it was on water or floatin' like." It now had 4 lights on it, 2 on each end. The shadowy object was long and slender, kinda cigar-shaped. At one time, it was just right above us, maybe 50 to 60. Well, you couldn't believe the size of it. It was real large. We went down the highway just a little further. We were going to park the car, so we pulled in there and were getting out of the car and we couldn't find it. It had just vanished. The object was thin on the ends, and, as it got to the middle, it was thicker. But like I say, we could just see the shadow. Duration, 7 to 18 minutes.